Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Nancy Stark, and with me here today is Deanna Booker.
Hey.
Deanna is an amazing person for those of you who haven't already met her. She's a financial expert, and also she is the manager of community outreach and communication at Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Maryland and Delaware. And for those of you who don't know CCCS is a local nonprofit. Before we start, Dee, tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Well, I first have to say that I just love coming here because it's so good for my ego.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
We're providing all kinds of financial counseling, so budget counseling, credit counseling, housing counseling, teaching financial literacy education wherever we can, just helping in any way that we can. We've been serving folks here on the Eastern Shore since 1966. We
That's
just
a long
celebrated our
time.
47th anniversary. So just doing anything that we can.
Well, you're a busy group, and I know you do a lot of really good work. And on that note, I have an exciting announcement about CCCS to make today. I feel like I should have a drum roll.
Yeah.
My understanding is that Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Maryland and Delaware is going to be providing free reverse mortgage counseling.
Yes. You got the scoop.
Tell us a little bit about that.
We have just very recently been given or been awarded a grant to provide free reverse mortgage counseling to seniors. Typically, to cover our administrative costs, we have to charge $125 for this service, for this certification. But because we've got this grant, we can offer it for free. So it's
That
awesome.
is really exciting.
Yep.
Well, for those folks that are out there that don't understand or have never heard of a reverse mortgage, what is that?
A reverse mortgage is a loan where you're able to get a loan or take a loan against your property using the equity in your home.
Mm-hmm.
With that loan, you are able to stay in your home. You're able to continue living there without having to make payments on the loan that you've gotten. Exactly. It's interesting because since our economy has begun to worsen over the last number of years, this kind of loan, this reverse mortgage, has become increasingly popular. There were just some figures put out by the National Reverse Mortgage Lenders Association, and what they said in their report is that over the last 7 years, more than 500,000 American households have gotten a reverse mortgage. So
that's a lot.
It gained some popularity at a point.
Well, that's very interesting. I know that not everyone can qualify for a reverse mortgage, and you talked a little bit about seniors. Tell me, what does it take to qualify for one?
Right. You and your spouse, the borrower and the borrower's spouse, have to be at least 62 years of age, and you have to have equity in your home. Typically, generally, you can qualify for a reverse mortgage without any nod really to what your current income level is or what your credit score is. Those things typically don't matter, but you do have to meet those age and equity requirements.
Oh, that's interesting. I would qualify.
Oh,
How about that?
You're not a day over 25.
You're so nice. See, this is also good for my ego, is what it amounts to. With that said, I know that sounds like a wonderful idea for people who have equity but who are maybe cash poor, especially seniors that are on a limited budget.
Right.
Is it always a really good idea for someone to take out a reverse mortgage?
You know what? It isn't. Honestly, it isn't always the best idea. Reverse mortgages are really complex, they're really complicated, and a lot of factors come into play. And honestly, it isn't the right thing for everyone. Because they're so complex and because there's so much involved, that's the reason why borrowers or potential borrowers are required to get HUD-approved housing counseling before they can apply for a reverse mortgage through FHA programs, because lenders want to make sure that borrowers really understand the process, because it isn't for everybody.
Well, that's really interesting. So it isn't one size fits all.
Exactly.
It really depends on the individual experience. Exactly how do reverse mortgages work?
Well, when you get a reverse mortgage, a lender is going to lend to you based on the value of your home, based on the amount of equity you have in your home, and based on your age at the time.
So those three factors.
Exactly. At your age at the time of application. Now, the money that you get can be paid out to you in a few ways. You can get it in a lump sum. It can come in monthly installments. It can be given to you as a line of credit. It really just depends on what's best for that particular borrower.
It's flexible.
Exactly. No matter how the money is paid out to you, you generally don't have to pay the money back unless or until you permanently move away from the home, you sell the home, or you die. Those are the times when the loan would have to be paid back.
That's very interesting.
Right.
Well, exactly what are the advantages of having a reverse mortgage?
Well, I think the major advantages are that it allows seniors to have some ongoing income and remain in their homes. So just that. I think those are the biggest things for seniors who are taking out these loans.
No one wants to leave their home if they can help it.
Exactly. And so the money that seniors are getting out of a reverse mortgage, it may help them pay off their existing mortgages.
Oh, that's excellent.
Exactly. So that's another benefit. Another huge benefit is that the dividends or the profits that they receive or the monies that they receive aren't taxed.
Ooh, that's a wonderful benefit.
Yes, that's huge. That's a huge advantage. So I think those are some of the major ones.
Well, that's wonderful. What are some of the disadvantages?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Yeah. There's always a quid pro quo here.
Exactly. I think a disadvantage would be that a lot of the times reverse mortgages come with really high closing costs, really high finance fees. So there can be, some money kind of up front. And even though in a reverse mortgage, a borrower is going to retain the title to their home, they are still required to pay the property taxes, to pay the homeowner's insurance, to make any necessary repairs.
So you have responsibilities as far as things that still cost money.
Exactly right. And when, again, that home is sold or the borrower passes away, that loan has to be repaid, by the spouse or the heirs or whoever is going to be responsible. So some disadvantages are out there because, again, it's not for everybody.
So, in other words, if you sold your house and you sold it for less than the loan and there was a balance left over, that would have to be
Absolutely, because in the sale of the home, you are allowed to sell and you're allowed to keep whatever profit or whatever you get that exceeds how much you owe on the loan.
And that's true for your heirs as well.
Exactly
that's
right.
Interesting. Okay, well, obviously it is a complex product, and that's why counseling is involved. Could you tell us a little bit about your counseling program? How does that work?
Sure. We're doing housing counseling on a grand scale. We're talking to 2,000 or so people every year. So there's a lot. When clients come in, they are going to kind of get some of the process up front. So when clients first approach us for a reverse mortgage counseling session, we're going to give them a lot of information. We're going to give them a checklist of materials that they need to gather together before, they come in and talk with the counselor. And let me say too that all of our counselors are trained, they're certified, because again, reverse mortgage is a really complex process.
That's an important
Exactly.
point.
So you want to make sure that you're talking to folks who are knowledgeable about the process, and they're going to be able to give you the best kind of information. But so when clients come in, we're going to give them some stuff up front. A checklist, gather your materials, get some things together. We're also going to give them a packet of resources that we want them to go over beforehand. So when they come to the session, they've already gotten a little bit of understanding, about what's going to go on and what the process is going to be like.
That makes sense. Once they're at the session, how does that work?
Right. The focus at that point is then on their current financial situation. We're going to look at where they are, what they have going on. The focus also during the session is, again, making sure they understand the process. Right. So explaining to them how reverse mortgages work, explaining to them what other options they may have other than taking out a reverse mortgage.
Oh, that's helpful.
Like we said, it's not for everybody. No. So if we get into a person's situation and help them understand that maybe this isn't for them, we're going to talk about other options. We're going to talk about all the programs that are out there. We're going to talk about, the pros and cons, like you were just saying.
Balance how it balances.
Exactly.
That's right. So they can make an informed decision.
That's exactly right. All of that kind of thing is going to be involved in the session. During the session, we're also going to talk numbers, with the client, but we're going to make sure that the client understands that the numbers we're talking about really are just for illustration purposes.
Right, to help them make an informed decision.
Exactly. Again, when it comes down to it, only a lender is going to be able to give clients exact costs and fees and amounts and that kind of thing. But we are going to talk numbers just so clients
You're going to give them a ballpark estimate.
Exactly right. That's exactly it.
Well, that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Well, Let me ask you, how does CCCS's reverse mortgage counseling compare with other groups that provide it?
Well, that's a good question. there are a lot of groups out there, a lot of agencies out there that are giving reverse mortgage advice. Honestly, some of them are really reputable and some of them aren't.
So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. So at Consumer Credit, we just really stress and we encourage clients to make sure that they are doing some homework and doing some research, before deciding who it is that they're going to use. Because again, you want to make sure you're getting the best information to make that informed decision.
That makes full sense.
Yeah.
If I were looking at the possibility of reverse mortgage counseling, what are some of the questions I'd want to ask before I decide on who I'm getting it from?
Well, you want to make sure, namely, that it's a HUD-approved agency. You want to make sure that you're talking with counselors who are HUD-approved. They've got the right training, the right certification to be able to help you along the process.
Sense.
You also want to ask if the agency is going to provide personalized kind of education. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that they're going to be talking specifically to you, about you, for you.
Yeah. So that your situation is what we're looking at.
Exactly.
Right.
We've seen a trend over the last couple years toward online reverse mortgage counseling. Mm-hmm. And in an online session, most of the time, the client or the consumer isn't able to interact directly with the counselor. So
that would be a problem because you can't ask questions.
Exactly right. That's just what I was about to say. That means you're not going to be able to ask questions. So that means that there's the large chance that you're going to leave that session not really knowing, if this is the best thing for you to do.
You've got your certificate, but you didn't really find out if it's right for you.
Exactly right. So it really does pay to do some homework and really make sure you're talking with someone who's HUD approved and reputable and is going to give you the best information.
That makes full sense. How can people reach you in the case that they want to get counseling?
They can call us up. They can call our housing line. It's 1-866-731-8486 to make an appointment. They can visit our website, www.cccs-inc.org. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of great information on the site. We even have a podcast, or an e-learning course, I should say, about reverse mortgage. It's called Understanding Reverse Mortgages, and it's free. It's self-paced, so folks can really go to that and really, again, just get some initial understanding about what the process is.
Before we leave this topic, do you have any other advice for folks that might be considering a reverse mortgage?
I would really just stress again not to just go for that quick certificate. So don't just run out and, get the paper really quick. Make sure you understand what reverse mortgages mean, what it's going to mean for you, how it's going to impact you, and not just now. You don't just want to think about now, okay, I want to apply, but really you want to gauge it out. You want to think about what kind of impact is this going to have on me in the future as I get older, as my needs change. How is this going to...
Because it can actually affect sometimes your ability to get certain benefits, I've heard.
Absolutely. It can affect your ability to qualify for certain government benefits.
Right.
So it can have an impact going forward. So you want to make sure that it's something that really is right for you. If you decide that you're going to go ahead and you're going to get a reverse mortgage, just make sure you're prepared. Make sure you get all your questions answered. Make sure any information that someone gives you, you review it carefully, you understand it. You just really want to make sure that you've got all the information around the process.
One more time on the phone number, just so in case people didn't get
Absolutely. It's 1-866-731-8486. That's our housing line.
Excellent. And one last question for you that I'm sure anyone who's interested would want to know. Mm-hmm. How long is it going to be free counseling?
Yes. Yeah. Our campaign for free counseling is going to last until the funds run out. Hopefully it'll be 3-4 more months or so. But again, it's limited. There's a limited pool. So if you're interested in getting a reverse mortgage, now is the time to act while the counseling's free.
That's excellent advice. Well, on that note, we're going to kind of switch gears here. Okay. This is the time of year that it's back to school time. I see all of the kids in the stores shopping for their clothes, and the parents are there as well.
Yes.
I thought this time around what we would talk about is not back to school financial advice, but all through the school year financial advice. And on that note, we're starting out here, kicking off back to school. What financial advice do you have for parents?
I think it's for parents. I think, though, it's for families too, because like you said, this is something that's all year long. So I think this is a perfect time with, being back to school and all that. This is a perfect time to like call a family meeting, kind of a family conference, and get everybody involved and brainstorming about ways that we're going to be able to save throughout the year. Save on back to school shopping, but continue saving and kind of spread that savings out to all areas of the family budget. So I think it really is a good time to have everybody kind of together. I think when families are making these kinds of decisions and having these conversations as a whole, it makes them more effective, I believe. And when everybody's involved, everybody's got a vested interest, in seeing that we're stretching our budget and we're making our dollars work for us as best we can. And especially when it comes to our children, to the kids. I think when they get involved in these kinds of talks and these kinds of family money discussions, when they get involved early, age appropriate, of course, but when they get involved early, I think it helps them it's going to help them as they age and as it becomes time for them to make their own kind of personal money management decisions. I think it's positive. So I think it has a benefit, and this is the perfect time of year to do it, to get everybody together.
What a great idea.
Get started.
So kick off the school year with a financial discussion for the family.
Absolutely. And it's math too.
No, that's true. Tie in there. I love that. One of the areas that costs parents, the entire family throughout the year is clothes. And that's particularly true if you've got a growing family.
Yes.
What suggestions would you have for viewers who would like to save a little bit on their kids' wardrobes this year?
Really, that's it. A growing family. The kids are growing up and they're growing out of all of the clothes. I know it very well. I think the key, or one of the keys when it comes to saving on clothing, first, before you shop, before you buy anything, look at what you have. Get into the kids' closets first. Before you go anywhere to buy anything, look at what's there.
Shopping.
Yeah, closet shopping, exactly. Look at what's there. See what they already have. What kind of things can maybe be remade, into some new outfits. You don't always necessarily have to buy everything new. If your son's got a couple great pair of jeans already, maybe he just needs a few shirts, to top them off.
That's excellent advice.
Right, so you want to check on what they already have and see how we can get creative maybe and freshen the outfits up. So maybe it's not that we need to buy everything new, but maybe we just need some new accessories. You throw a nice scarf or a cute belt on something and you've changed it up. So I think you, as parents, as the shoppers, as the buyers, we've got to make sure that we're helping the kids understand not only that we need to save, but there's things that we can do with what we already have. Consignment shops.
I love consignment
Absolutely.
shops.
Thrift stores. They're great places. Places you can trade in. You
and
can
retro
buy
is in.
Yes, retro is back, and so you
can
find some really nice, high quality, things for the kids there. The other thing is, you're coming down the road or down the line, I should say, if you've got older children. Some of the stuff that they can no longer wear,
recycle
it. Exactly. Give it to the younger ones. So there's all kinds of things you can do, I think, around making sure that everybody's got the things they want. They're all as stylish as they can be, but it doesn't have to break the bank.
I have one final suggestion on that. I have a number of younger mothers in my neighborhood, and one of the things that they did is they got together and had a clothing swap with each other.
Absolutely.
And they actually were able to trade each other.
Oh, that's awesome.
Things that they could use. I thought
that's
that
a great
was
idea.
A wonderful idea.
That's a great idea.
Well, let's talk about another item that is a big household item, and that is food. I mean, we always used to joke our kids are eating us out of house and home.
Yes.
How can we save on food?
I have one that's eaten me out of house and home, too. Food is such a big part of our budget. It really is. So we really just, again, we have to pay attention. We've got to know, and we've got to plan. Planning is the key, I think, when it comes. And especially we're talking about back to school, so we're talking about lunches a lot. And I think that we're going to be doing our kids a service. Not only are we going to be saving money, but we're going to be offering them healthier lunch options if we're packing lunch at home.
That makes sense.
Right, instead of having them buy lunch at school. So, the kinds of things that we're going to be able to provide for them, it's just going to be better, and it's going to save us. And I think, too, we can broaden it out. It's not just the kids packing lunch. We can make it a family affair.
That's
everybody.
A great idea.
Right. Everybody.
We're
all brown bagging it. So the adults as well. Everybody pack a lunch, get into the habit. It's a way to save. I think, too, another thing, we take that kind of a step further. We want to be clear about how we're shopping. So we want to make sure that we've got a list and we're using
have
coupons,
a menu, in other
planning
words.
menus,
Right.
exactly, not just kind of shopping
impulsively,
right, but
right.
we've got things planned out. We know what meals we want to prepare. We know how they're going to be stretched. Speaking of stretching and going back to lunches,
right.
leftovers.
From dinner.
Leftovers,
right.
yeah.
That's
What you
an
had for
excellent
dinner
idea.
last night is what you're going to have for lunch tomorrow.
How can I make it so that it's not the same thing I had as last time?
It's not the same chicken. Turn that chicken from yesterday into chicken salad for
that's
tomorrow.
An excellent idea.
So we have to be able to kind of take those kinds of leaps, because it is going to save us. Another thing about it, I think another big aspect, especially when it comes to packing lunches, are the supplies. What goes into packing lunches? So I'm always telling folks, go green. Go green.
What do you mean by that, Dee?
You're going to save money and you're also saving the planet. So what I mean is not buying, the single serve kind of items at the store. You're not buying juice pouches and all that kind of thing, but you're going to make juice and you're going to use a resealable thermos, and you're not going to spend a whole lot on plastic Ziploc bags and that kind of thing.
Right.
We're going to get reusable containers and a reusable lunchbox, so we're not having to buy brown bags, all that kind of thing. And we might not think about it. They might seem like small
but that
things.
Adds up.
They add up.
It
You spend a lot of
adds
money in Ziploc bags.
That makes full sense.
Yeah.
Well, school supplies, I'd be remiss, given it is back to school, if we didn't talk a little bit about school supplies. How can we save on school supplies?
Well, I think kind of the same thing with clothes. It goes back to taking stock of what you have now. So before you run out and buy 65 new glue sticks, look at what the kids have from last year.
They might have some.
They might have some. They might have some. Exactly. We might
Right.
have packs of paper left. So really take stock of what you have.
Right.
And also, a lot of times folks don't think about this with school supplies, but shopping online for school supplies,
It can be helpful.
It can be helpful. Sites like Amazon, places like that, they have some good deals on school supplies and also kind of bulk sales. The other thing, though, about school supplies,
Right.
especially if your child needs a big ticket item,
Right.
like a computer or like a music instrument,
Right.
You want to make sure that you're shopping around and you're comparing prices and
Right.
you're looking for discounts and that kind of thing. So you want to take the work that you're putting in, the effort that you're putting into getting those bigger ticket items, you want to take some time and really make sure you're getting the best deal when it comes to those. Another thing, discount stores. I don't know about
dollar
you.
store.
The dollar store,
Right.
exactly.
I love the
dollar store. And that's a great place to buy basic stuff like pencils and pens and paper, exactly.
Right.
So you really just have to keep those kinds of things in mind.
I have one final tip on that as far as the musical instrument. And my daughter at one point when she was in junior high really wanted to play the violin.
Oh, yeah.
So we went to all the trouble of buying a violin. Tell you that, only to find out after she really learned what it takes to learn the violin, she wasn't so happy doing the violin.
Right.
I would highly recommend that people rent instruments.
Oh yes, I'm with you.
Or if you need to, you can buy a used instrument.
I am with you on that. I had a same little violin player in my house.
I think it's a common situation. One of the areas I think that families spend a lot of money on and maybe don't think so much about is on communications like phones and also entertainment, things like satellite, cable, TV, and the internet.
Absolutely.
Those are areas that are kind of sneaking up on us.
Right.
How can we save on them?
You're absolutely right. You really want to go over your communication costs. Really,
That's
what are
a
you
good
spending?
idea.
And are you overspending on unnecessary,
Features.
Features when it comes to communication? If you've got a cell phone, maybe there are a couple landlines, in the house, maybe you're using one for the computer, you really want to rethink. Maybe I can let one go. Maybe we can, we can do without one. The same thing like you mentioned with TV. Cable TV, premium channels, it's very expensive. Maybe we want to think about cutting out the premium channels and the movie channels and the sports channels and all of that. Maybe cutting out cable altogether because it's very expensive. So this might be the time where, we're going to start going to the library and renting DVDs and that kind of thing. There's other ways,
Or spending less time watching TV.
Exactly.
What a concept.
Exactly. Or watching TV on free sites like Hulu.com,
Well, that's
those
true.
kinds of places.
A lot of things on the internet anymore.
And all the features when it comes to cell phones, because we know the kids can't live without their cell phones. No. But we just got to make sure that we're not spending a lot of money on all these extra features and apps and that kind of thing. So you really have to take stock of your communication
accessories.
costs. Accessories, right. That's a great point. I'm so glad you brought that up. That's awesome.
Well, that's excellent. I have one last area we're going to look at today as far as savings, and that's education itself. If you have a child that is heading off to college, you've got a big ticket item there.
Tell me about it.
I know you have one coming
Yes, I
up.
do.
How would you recommend saving on that?
I think the key to that is planning ahead. As early as you can, when your children or when your child is very young, you want to start saving for their education.
Right at the point they're born.
Exactly. You want to start contributing to something like a 529 plan. So when it's time for them to go off to college, you're not blindsided, by these
the cost
huge
of college
Exactly.
is a pretty pricey thing
It is
anymore.
very, very pricey. So you really want to make sure that you're on top of it, as best you can be.
And as far as like student loans, is there a way on saving on student loans?
I think, again, you want to maybe step back from it first and make sure that your child has applied for everything else. So every scholarship, every grant that they might be able to qualify for, you want to help them make sure they're getting
thousands of dollars on
Absolutely.
loans.
It can save tens of thousands of dollars on student loans. If you do, though, if you have to end up getting student loans, again, you want to be there and you want to make sure that your student understands the process and that you do too.
Right.
That you
I think it's important for both.
Sure. That you know what is going to go into it, that you know what the terms of repayment are and the rates and when things are going to come due, that you really understand the student loan process. The only thing as parents that I might give a little caution, I might say think twice about doing, is think twice before you co-sign on student loans.
Exactly. Why is that?
Because if your child graduates from college, but they can't find work, they can't find a job right away, you as the parent, as the co-signer of that loan, you are on the hook for the full balance that they owe, and you're going to be responsible for paying it. Exactly. It can be very costly. It can get very costly very quickly.
Not only that, but from a bankruptcy point of view, student loans are one of those areas that cannot be discharged.
They cannot be discharged in bankruptcy. So parents really have to understand what they and or their student are undertaking when it comes to getting student loans.
Well, one of the things it seems like to me that would be a great thing for parents to do with college students before they head off, is to actually make sure they know how to set up a budget and use a budget. And I know you guys provide wonderful help in that direction.
Yes, we do.
Because you have free budget and credit counseling.
We absolutely do.
How can folks reach you in the case that they want to set up an appointment to do that?
Sure. They can call our 1-800 number. It's 800-642-2227, or visit the website www.cccs-inc.org, and we can set them up with a counselor, get a counselor talking with them about where they stand financially, if it's a student or if it's a parent and a student. What have you worked on? What kind of things do you have in place for when the student goes off to college? How much money are they going to have access to? Are you as their parent going to be giving it to them? And if you are, or if you're, funding their education, how are you going to be monitoring what they spend and how they're spending?
That's an important point.
Oh yeah, and so we can talk about those kinds of things and really get some framework and some structure down around, making sure that your young adult has that budgeting skill and that knowledge, and they're able to apply it once they're away from home and on their own.
That is a wonderful resource. Do you have any other resources for parents and students who want to learn more about money management?
We do. On the website, in the education and resources sections of the website, there are all kinds of great podcasts, e-learning courses, everything from, how to manage my budget down to how to manage my checking account, down to how to manage my student loans.
Oh, that's wonderful.
All of that kind of thing is there. So I really encourage parents and students to go to the site and check out all of that information. It's all free.
That's excellent. Well, on that note, I hate to say this, but we have come to the end of another program. Before we go, what I would like you to do is give us your housing number one more time for those folks that need. You don't just do reverse mortgage counseling, obviously. You do foreclosure prevention, and help people who are learning to buy a new home.
Pre-purchase, pre-purchase counseling. We do all of that. The housing line is 1-866-731-8486, and our general 800 number is 800-642-2227.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here, Deanna. You're always just a breath of fresh air when it comes to the money stuff.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We want to especially thank PAC 14.
Yes,
we could not do it without you. And on that note, folks, we hope you have a wonderful rest of the summer. It's almost over. And I'm wishing you money talks for you.
Would you like to see your community organization or nonprofit group featured on PAC 14? To get started, contact us at 410-677-5014 or visit our website at www.pac14.org.